Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, thank you for tuning in. 24 minutes before 11 o'clock. Those who listen all the time know that Robin and I speak to authors all the time. And those who look at the streaming video always see the book cover as we're talking to the author. And I do have the book cover on this time as well, but I'm going to turn it off in a second because the author is in the studio today.
I know, it's great.
G.L. Didaleusky is in the studio with his beautiful wife, Holly. His new book is called Whispers Before Death. And I'm going to switch the camera now so I can stop being distracted by this thing and say good morning to both of them. So, Greg, G.L., Greg, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to see you. And Holly, how are you doing?
Just fine.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Remind me where you guys live. Do you live here in Ocala?
In Ocala, correct. North Ocala.
And go through this. I know I did this every time you come in, probably. How long have you lived here?
19 years.
19 years. Okay. And when did we meet you? I heard you tell Robin you met us in the Cascades.
Yeah, when you were there just before you moved
So,
here. That was
10 years ago, maybe?
I don't know, 9 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah, probably something
I
like
don't know,
that.
something with 6, I don't know.
So how many books have you written?
6 through Rogue Phoenix Press. Rogue Phoenix Press is my
That's your
book
publisher?
publisher. Yeah, they're out of out west.
So Whispers Before Death.
It's 3 books. I remember last time Robin asked me, "Well, you ever write a trilogy or something?" I said, "No, I'm really not." Right after he said that, I kept thinking, maybe I should write a trilogy. So she inspired me to write a trilogy, I guess.
Is that what the publisher wants? A trilogy?
They, she doesn't, or he and she don't really care.
Doesn't matter.
They like the books that I write.
So that means that the characters in this book are going to be in future books,
That's
right?
right. The second book has already been accepted, and it's going to be going to the editor. That comes out September 6th. It's book 2, called Deadly Seizures. And then book 3 I'm working on right now.
Wow. So
which is normal. Authors just don't write a book and then it's published. They're always about a year ahead.
That would make sense, yeah.
A year ahead.
It takes you about a year to write a book?
It takes about a year to get it published.
Oh, okay.
And if you go in any publisher, it's going to take you almost a year to have it actually published. Once you give it to them, they accept it. It takes a year because they have other books that they have to present and so forth.
So if I were to hear a whisper before I died, would it be something like, "You're going to die"? Would it be one of those?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you that.
I think trilogies are really, really nice because as a reader, I really like to know what's going on next. But I also like the fact that they can be standalone.
Correct.
Each volume can be
right,
standalone.
and you develop the characters develop. Like book 2, the minor character a little bit more have more emphasis on them. That's pretty common in trilogies. You bring the minor characters up a little bit to more limelight into the book.
So introduce us to the character. Who's the main character, the protagonist in this book?
It'd be Simon Woods. He's a MD. He works for a new division of CDC. Federal Medical Investigators. It's a new division. They investigate mysterious deaths, medical deaths throughout the United States.
Okay. And so does the story follow any real true to life diseases that we know about, or?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
Yes and no. I mean, the medical part is there. I mean, there's truth in the medical. Anything I write, there's truth behind the medical.
Is that your background?
I'm a retired physician assistant.
Okay, so you do have a medical background then.
Yes, I have a medical background.
So a lot of what you write is more authentic than if I were to write it. I mean, I could
unless
make
you do
stuff
research.
up.
You can do research. Even now, I still do research on my books, but the medical, I just know where to go to look.
And where does this story take place?
Ocala.
It takes place in Ocala?
Ocala. It starts in Ocala, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do we know the people in the book? Are we in there? Did I die?
Oh, dang it, I forgot. Maybe the next book I'll put you
Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Well, you also have a gift for the conversation, for the different dialogue, because that's when the personalities really, really shine through,
yes,
that you
that's
get
right.
a grip.
Yeah, you have to grab the different characters all have different personalities. Just like here, we all have different personalities. Some are similar, but other ones are completely different.
So, as a writer, do you feel like a puppeteer in a way? I mean, you've got these lives on a string, and
that's a good way to
control them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. In some respects, you're absolutely right.
So, when you have a protagonist, Simon Woods, right?
Yeah, Simon Woods.
He's going to be in all
and
three
there's two protagonists.
books.
And Janet Bennett is a sheriff detective. She helps them
in
to
Ocala.
solve the mysterious deaths in Ocala.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 people suddenly die in Ocala at 11:58 a.m. all throughout Ocala, not in one area, all throughout. At 11:58 a.m. they just suddenly die. And just before they die, they whisper something, but people can't hear what they're whispering.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Just before they die, they whisper something.
They whisper, the people that died.
I thought they were hearing a whisper.
Well, just before they die, they whisper. Maybe they are hearing something.
They say something.
You have to get further in the book.
Do we know what they say?
Oh, yes, at the end of the book.
At the end of the book, we know what they say.
Of course. I'm not going to keep your interest.
Maybe it's to be continued. To be continued.
No. Each book, like any trilogy, you want to solve the problem, the existing problems, the things that are happening. You want to have closure to it, before you go to the next book. You don't want to really, open it up and just be one big book. In a sense.
So
each one's separate.
Do you have it all laid out before?
I do an outline, correct.
So you know the ending before you start.
You got to know the ending before you even write the beginning.
But there's other parts in between that are surprising to yourself, even?
Yeah, sometimes I add things. You write an outline, you write the ending. Well, I usually write the ending first. I want to know what the ending is. Then I write the beginning, and then the middle, you just fill in different ideas that come to you. As
Really?
You write.
So where did the idea overall come from for this one?
This particular book?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I think I woke up one morning thinking, boy, that would be a good trilogy.
Oh, wow. Did you think of Robin when you thought that? Because you said she put the bug in your ear.
She mentioned it. Yeah, she did mention it. Actually, it did. It came second thought. I said, I think Robin mentioned that. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, but sometimes you have things happen in the beginning of the book, and then it morphs into something else. But then when you do your next book in the series, that might resurface.
That's right. It does resurface. Every book brings something from each book preceding it. And that's why it's a trilogy, because you're using the same characters and some of the same themes.
For those
there is
watching,
one central theme that goes through all 3 books. So.
Let's see, for those watching, let me put the cover back on. And I neglected to mention Death Agents. Is that the name of the series?
That's the name of the series, Death Agents. Yeah.
Whispers Before Death, Death Agents 1.
And then Death Agents 2 will be Deadly Seizures, and that comes out in September, I think, 6th or 9th. And then the third book, Deadly Unknowns, will be the third book, which I'm working on.
It all takes place in Ocala.
They all, yes and no.
Oh, okay.
I can't say that.
You go elsewhere?
I go elsewhere.
Ann Arbor, Michigan at all?
No Ann Arbor, Michigan. Although we're from Michigan, but I guess I do write in one of the books about Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The character, the sheriff character, she's very strong-willed because
Janet
sometimes
Bennett,
people try to dissuade her from her investigations.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
But she's friends with Billy Woods, right?
I think so. It would have to be, I would think. She's a fictitious character. Yeah. Maybe there is a Detective Bennett. I never did look that up. I probably should have. I don't think so.
But then their personalities, sometimes they're at odds with each other.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. There is always conflict, even, people in groups of people, if you work with, you work with Larry, I'm sure there's minor conflicts once in a while, disagreements.
With us?
Sure.
Well, probably not with you guys. That's an exception to the rule, I'm sure.
So as we read the book, do we also, this is probably an aside and not, the person listening in Colorado is going to want to will enjoy the book just as much as the Ocala person.
Yes, yeah, you don't have to be in Ocala.
But specifically for the Ocala people, do we recognize the locations things take place in?
Northgate Diner on 35th Street and Gainesville Road. The book starts out pretty much in that area. And it goes to
that's kind of cool. Do those folks know that they're in the book?
Yeah. I already talked to the owner, and she said, be glad to,
Well, that is cool.
Have her use it.
So what is with 11:58? What is that? I mean,
that's the time they die.
No, I know, but is there a reason for that?
I just brought it. I don't know. It's just the time. I wanted it in the morning, this event to happen.
That's about as late in the morning as you can get.
Well, yeah, that's right. And there's a reason behind that. So I can't tell you that either.
Oh, okay. So do you run the ideas by Holly? Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Do-
We go over the outline. When I write the outline, I go over with it, and I say, what'd you write? And I read it to her. And so, yeah, it sounds good. Maybe we should add this to it.
Do you get stuck ever? Like, oh my gosh, how do I take from this point
Sometimes,
to the...
yes. Sometimes it's called transition. Sometimes you got to think, now, how am I going to transit this to the other scene? And, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen, sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever get angry sometimes when you're writing because you know something has to be resolved and the character has to get angry, but you must have to feel that also?
That's true. So you have to get in the heads of each character you're writing and try to figure out what their feelings would be, what the logical feeling would be. I mean, you don't want a fantasy where nobody's going to think that way, in that type of situation. In other words, you wouldn't laugh in a serious situation unless it's a nervous laughter type thing.
Do we grieve at all? Is there somebody who dies that we don't want to see die?
That's correct, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
see, that's always a good book. I mean, isn't that weird? We don't like that in life, but we like that in a book.
That's true, it does.
Right?
There are people that die, that you feel sad about.
And what about you as the writer, when a character dies that we all fall in love with, and now the guy who made that character is killing him or her off?
Well, there's a better place sometimes for people. I guess that's one way to put it.
Is there life after death for a character?
Yes, I think so.
You can make another book.
Yeah, that's true.
My life after dying in a book.
Yeah.
Well, you have a few fashion statements in there, though. I mean, the doctor.
Oh, facts. It's interesting in all my books, I think, pretty much. I use a little bit of history, a little bit of facts. We have one character in the book that Frank Littlefield, he's a computer geek. He's part of the team.
Uh-huh.
And he has all this trivial information. I mean, it's good for a conversation and a cup of coffee. You can't use it any other place. But I give those facts. Like, for instance, a regular bat, can eat 1,000 insects an hour. Mm-hmm. That's why we need bats.
And he's kind of like
just a trivial thing. It doesn't have nothing to do with the book per se.
So Robin said you talk about fashion, and you're in Ocala, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do you talk about those guys that wear their pants below their butt?
I haven't yet. No.
I see them outside the window all the time.
I don't know how they keep them up.
What? Why? Why do they do that?
To their underwear or something.
I know, Greg. Why? Why are they doing that?
That's just a fashion.
It's not attractive at all.
It's just a fashion. It started in California. And
It did?
I moved this way.
Oh, okay. I
did a little history on it. Remember, I'm a history buff.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to know facts. Why this?
Who
and that.
started wearing their pants low first?
What's that?
I'm thinking that's the question you ask yourself.
Oh,
Who started?
Well, it started in California.
And why? What happened?
It's just a fashion statement.
like a flood
they
or
wanted to be
something?
different. The group of people wanted to be different, and they're just, of course, California.
Somebody set off a bomb in the men's room and they couldn't get their pants up in
Probably
time?
could have been that. And I didn't read that part, but it could be that.
Somebody else said, "Whoa!"
But
I
that's
like
where it
that.
started, and it's progressed. Yeah.
But you do have and then you do have, of course, what you said about the facts about bats and things about.
But that's not in this book. But I'm saying I get other facts in this. I like to give a little educate people on different facts and display.
Makes it fun, huh?
It's sort of fun.
See, I think it's going to be fun to read. Did you read the whole book?
Yes.
See, I didn't. I think it's going to be fun to read about Ocala. The plane landed at Ocala International Airport / Jim Taylor Field. That's the first thing I opened to.
That's right.
And that's history there, Jim Taylor Field.
That's right. I did a little history on that. That was interesting, too. So I learned a lot. When I read about Ocala or other cities and that, I learned a lot about those cities and towns.
And that makes you
of it.
appreciate living here more.
That's correct.
When you hear everything that goes
and what
on.
it looked like back then and what it looks like now.
Do you visit the other cities that you write about?
Yes, all the cities that I've written about, I've been there, or Holly and I have been there.
Uh-huh. And the diners, the specific locations, do you go to them? Do you eat there?
Yeah. Northgate Diner, we eat there frequently.
And that's what's great about your peripheral characters, is that you also allow their personalities to shine.
Oh yes, each one I have. When I talk about like Frank Littlefield, he shines a little bit in this section, and then there's Jean Cliffwood, the other agent, federal medical FMI agent, has her own personality.
So tell me about yourself. We probably went through this in past interviews, but children? How many children do you have?
2.
2, and where do they live?
All over.
There's only 2 of them. How could it be all over?
Yeah.
Where do they live right now?
They live up north. They're up north.
Up north,
Nice.
like Michigan?
Michigan, yeah.
Okay, both of them are in Michigan. Okay. And are you grandparents?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And are the grandchildren old enough to read the book? Or
Oh,
no?
yes. Their grandkid, definitely. They're once 20.
Grandkids are almost
Grandkids
Oh,
are
really?
20,
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
They read it, yeah.
Congratulations.
So how is that for them? I mean, when you're older, you forget that when you were younger, old looked really old,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because when I was a kid, people my age looked really old. So I must look that old to them now, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you're writing a book must be really cool to them.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is timeless, though, your book is, because even young adult readers, I think they would appreciate it, especially if they're having some questions about themselves going into the medical profession or law enforcement. Your facts sort of give a behind-the-scenes look.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Does the whisper before death cause their death?
I can't answer that question.
I'm just curious because if I knew what they were whispering, and I heard you starting to whisper that sentence,
That's
I was
right.
Stop! Don't say anymore.
That's right.
Because I know what happens after the period.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
And that's really hard as a writer, though, to not have that revelation nailed in the first part of the book. You have to keep everybody, the reader, even yourself, in suspense until
Oh, yes.
toward the very end, and that's got to be very difficult because you're anxious to
Very much
out
so.
there.
You give little hints, like most authors will give, even at the beginning, they'll give hints of what's the ending going to be. But you have to sort of look close, you know. I'm trying to think of the one movie where I can't think of the movie now, where it was all like in black and white. Then one character was in red, and that she was, remember?
Oh, I remember
I can't
that.
remember
yeah.
that, but that was sort of a hint of what was happening.
Yeah, that was a really good movie, and Reese Witherspoon was in there, and I
think so.
can't remember.
So I
the
can
name
buy
of
this
the
on
movie.
Kindle, it says here.
You can buy this on Kindle. You can buy it at most book venues, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, BookPub, Books A Million.
It just came out.
It goes on and on and on. I just actually revised my web page, and there's 11 venues.
Oh, that's
my book.
wonderful.
So for the listeners, I want to tell you that Greg's last name is not spelled the way it sounds. It's Didaleusky, but can I spell it so they can look you up?
Sure.
It's Didaleusky. What is there like an ethnicity or something? Where's that from?
That's Russian.
That's Russian.
Yes.
You're Russian. Do you have any Russian relatives?
No,
No.
not now. I did, yes.
You did?
Obviously.
Could you speak in that accent?
I just two swear words. I can't say it on.
You can say two swear words? My grandmother was German,
Because
and
I heard it, my grandparents,
they would say swear
my
words in
God.
Russian?
and so I knew.
So you
it.
don't know anything like I love you in Russian?
No.
Really?
My grandparents died when I was 5, 6 years old.
Oh.
All my grandparents.
And that's all you remember was
That's
the
I
curse
still
words?
remember that. Yeah. Remember my one book about the grandfather coming to the foot of the bed when I was 5, 6 years old,
Yes.
living in our grandparents' home. I wrote a short story on it.
Yeah,
And,
I do
that
actually
was-
remember
You
that
had
one.
mentioned that you
Yeah.
had an experience too.
Yeah.
But
Robin had one not too long ago, like in May. In May? Yeah, in May.
Yeah, May.
Yeah. My brother died, and she saw him at the foot of the bed.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something.
That's where I'm going to go, too, when I die.
At the foot
I'm
of
going
the bed.
to stand right there. Hey, Robin! I whispered that line. I'm done.
So is your second book, Deadly Seizures, is it all completed, or
It's all
is it
done.
through the
That's
editing?
the editor and the artist that does the book covers. I converse with her and I suggest what I'd like, and she takes that idea and then sends me the what she thinks it would look like, and I agree, disagree, and stuff like that.
So why are you waiting till September to release it? Is that just a normal
Because
procedure?
they have other authors in front of me to publish their books.
Oh, I see.
Rogue Phoenix Press is quite a large book publisher, so they have a lot of authors that it'll publish before me.
I think it's good to pace it out and space it out, though. I think that's a good idea.
compared to some people who self-publish, then you can put them out one after another every week if you want. But I don't self-publish. It doesn't cost me anything.
I think it's a good idea, though, to space it out. It
I
keeps
think
the
so.
reader waiting, and
Right.
if you go back and read it again. Have you had any movie makers just wanting
I
to work
hope
with
so.
you?
Hope John Travolta reads one of my books.
He knows the
He lives right
town.
here in Ocala, so it'll be perfect.
He
Yeah.
comes here to the mall. I've never seen him. People tell me, "Hey, Travolta was in there today. How come he never comes in here?"
Yeah, never stops in to say hi.
we ask him to, but he doesn't hear us.
Yeah.
We hear his jet once in a while.
Do you really?
Landing
Do you live up there near Anthony? Is
right
that
over
where?
by him, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, Holly, when you are reading the book, then does Greg wait until the very end and then you go over it, or are you privy to every chapter that's going to happen?
I usually review each chapter to see if there's any corrections I feel should be made. But then at the very end, I read the entire book because, as you know, reading it chapter by chapter on different days and months and what have you,
Yeah.
It's
you can lose track of who's who and what's what.
Wow.
Oh,
wow.
gosh.
It's a real detailed job, isn't it? Writing and editing and reviewing and all that.
Love it.
Yeah.
And it's hard for you to keep it straight, Greg, because now that you've got a trilogy, you've got to. Do you go back to
Oh, yeah, I
make
have to go
sure
back.
you don't
I have to
make
go
a
back.
mistake?
That's why you do an outline, number one. You do a characters of all the characters and who they are and what they do. And then you do an outline of each book. And then, if it's a trilogy, you got to go back sometimes and say, well, wait a minute, then what does he do over here? And then you go, oh, yeah, that's right. And then you go back, to what you're writing. That trilogy is a little different than writing just one novel, like Sudden Blindness or something. One of them.
Well,
you
this
just
is
stick
gonna
right
be
there to
good.
it.
So
Yeah, I'm
do
looking forward
you
to
have Christmas in any of the books? Does Christmas occur in a
No.
book? No.
No.
Do you celebrate Christmas?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Thank you for coming in here and celebrating 2 days before Christmas with your new book. And when did it come out? Just earlier?
It came out in November.
November?
Middle of November.
Are we giving one away to a listener?
Yes,
sure.
we have this
Yes.
one.
That's one.
Yes,
that one?
that we're
Okay.
gonna give away.
If we have a listener who would like a copy of the book, Whispers Before Death, call right now, 622-9622, and we will give it away. It's written by our guest, Greg Didaleusky. And Holly, hey, how you doing? You want a book? How you doing? You want a book? Come on in. Come on in. He's look at that. Look at that. Just all you callers, forget it. I got a guy live.
Here, Brown, give him this
This
one.
is to us. So
Yeah, he's,
I have to write his name on there.
come on in. Come on in. Come on in. What's his name? What's
I'm Chip.
Chip? Hey, Chip. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
You just got a book from Greg Didaleusky.
Awesome.
he's even making it out.
Are you a big reader? Do you read a lot?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Awesome.
Great.
And you're getting it signed. We're up against a commercial. Holly and Greg, thank you both. Have a
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you.
Come back with the next one, all right?
Absolutely. September, we'll be here.
And Chip, there's a whisper you don't want to ever say.
No, that's right.
There's a whisper you don't want to say. This whisper. We don't know what it is, but don't say it. Whatever it is. We'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
Health Alert Ocala residents. How would you like to feel better and become a healthier person just by going to sleep at night? This is all made possible and affordable at Mostly Mattress, located on Highway 200, across the street from Hobby Lobby in Ocala. Mostly Mattress beats all competitor prices and offers free delivery of your new sleep solution. All the brand names, and it's an adjustable bed heaven. Mostly Mattress, located on Highway 200, across the street from Hobby Lobby. Mostly Mattress is in Ocala, folks. Mostly Mattress is where your feel better begins.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News, I'm Steve Rappaport. A shakeup at Boeing in the aftermath of two 737 MAX jet crashes that killed nearly 350 people.
Dennis Muhlenberg, Boeing's chief executive officer and board director, has resigned. Boeing says its board of directors decided a change in leadership was necessary